Welcome to Dictators v Democrats. There's been a lot of news lately about Serbia and renewed or perhaps large protests that are currently happening in Novi Sad. So I reached out to Tamara, who was on episode 2 of Why We Fight and has been protesting against Vučić's government for some time now, really since the Novi Sad railway disaster last year. As with our interview for Why We Fight, Tamara has requested that we not show her face. So in respect to that, there's not going to be sort of a back and forth conversation, which you might expect. But do listen in, make yourself a coffee, and what she has to say is likely to be very interesting. Tamara, thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So what is happening and what's changed?
A lot has changed since we last spoke. So currently there have been some escalations on the streets in the past few days, and this was, from my perspective at least, brought up by the government trying to provoke protesters into violence. It's really all a mess and confusing, and it's hard to keep up with who started what and why. And that's kind of the point, right? It's all a bit of a mess, and we don't really fully know what's happening. And one of the goals, I guess, is probably to keep us all confused. Since we last spoke, there have been a few protests here and there, mostly locally in towns like Užice or Kragujevac, and the bigger towns like Niš, Novi Sad, Belgrade. There has been a big nationwide string of protests at the end of June, where students called for civil disobedience because he did not want to call for snap elections. And so there was a string of protests. Then summer has been generally less active because a lot of people are going to vacation, but there have been some actions organized by students. So in the past few months, things have been kind of quiet. Some groups of what we are assuming, we are assuming our government paid thugs and criminals have been riling people up on the streets. There are a few like local municipalities and minority groups that have been winning some small elections in small towns, so really minor things, right? But they couldn't let that go, and they've been basically provoking and assaulting citizens in these smaller towns. The other day there was a town of Vrbas and Bačka Palanka and Bački Petrovac. They keep sending thugs there who keep provoking citizens, and it's there are some actual like Serbian Progressive Party members within them, so we know they're related. And here in Novi Sad, they send thugs in the middle of the day. They gather like 200 of them, and they sent them to paint the buildings in one of the neighborhoods here that also won like these local small elections for like small local neighborhood councils. So they've been painting our facades on the buildings into Serbian flag, and like, so imagine like 200 thugs in broad daylight with police protecting them, painting walls of buildings into Serbian flags, and citizens couldn't do anything. Few days ago, there was actually a police station in front of these walls that were painted, uh, and
Yeah, I
guarding.
saw that.
Yeah, they
Um,
were guarding the wall,
when
like
you
in Game
say
of Thrones.
yeah, when you say minority groups, I'm assuming you mean minority parties, as in smaller opposition parties, that sort of thing.
No, so the one specific example I meant there was in a town named Bački Petrovac. There's a small minority Slovak representation, like representatives of their local, like, I don't know, movement or something. I'm
Mm.
not really sure how to translate this to English, but they have like this local political representation. And as there was like election for who's going to lead that, and there was an SNS member who was there as a candidate and an actual Slovak member, and the Slovak member won. And yeah, they were mad about it, so they, with again police protecting them, they went and destroyed this. There was an event that Slovaks organized about that showed like images of protests and stuff like that. So thugs came with being um, protected by police and kept ripping all the images and assaulting citizens. So that all led to an overall, like, let's call it mobilization, but it's more of a outpour of anger last night when so this was Wednesday 13th of August,
Yeah.
when people in all of the towns in Serbia just went out on the streets, and the violence was insane. I was there in Novi Sad. Though Novi Sad, I think, was the worst. I was on the streets. They the SNS party members barricaded themselves into their party offices
Hmm.
and headquarters, and they had a lot of fireworks, a lot of firecrackers, rocks. They threw rocks. They threw tear gas. Lots of like these less
From
than lethal
inside
weapons.
the
Yeah,
party
inside.
headquarters.
Yes, inside their offices, and they were there, and they were protected by the police, and yeah, citizens didn't. So from what I can see, I wasn't there since the beginning,
Yeah.
but students and citizens, they gathered on campus, student campus, and they went to protest as we did previously. We protest in front of their offices to show our displeasure with what they're doing to our country. It was never meant to be violent. It was just a show of uh, just a response of citizens and their displeasure with what happened in the past few days in these towns where they kept attacking people. But what they did, they were already armed. They had these long batons or sticks or whatever you want to call them, and they had torches, and they threw torches and started being violent on the streets as protesters kept approaching. And yeah, so that's how it started, and then they just escalated. Like, it felt wild. I felt like I was in a war zone. I'm not gonna lie. I never experienced something like that in my life. There was so much fireworks and torches and these loud, I don't know what you call them, like very loud firecrackers that sound like a
Yeah.
bomb going off. Yeah, a lot of
Essentially
those. It really,
flashbangs.
yeah. So yeah, that's at least what happened in Novi Sad. There was some commotion in Belgrade and many other towns as well, but here was the most, let's say, violent. And what was the most, like, disheartening was just to see how police became private security for the essence. They were absolutely doing nothing to stop them from attacking citizens. They were, you know, actively police were beating citizens for no reason. They were very aggressive. There are some reports now of actual military members protecting the SNS officers,
Okay.
offices, and actually having weapons and shooting those weapons. So yeah,
Wait, the military opened fire.
so guy shot at the sky. He didn't
Right.
shoot at people because a lot of citizens managed to advance to the offices, but the because at some point they couldn't even get close because police were protecting the offices. They were the headquarters, but some citizens managed to get around the building and to the back entrance where they were not protected, or police had left. I'm not sure. And there they started attacking the SNS members. So citizens were riled up and angry because they were being attacked all night. So this
A bit of a
uh,
scrap.
yeah, and this military
Yeah.
person, we thought it was just a regular tag, but today he went on television and said it was him, and he shot at the sky, and he was protecting himself.
Right. And the SNS is obviously the Serbian Progressive Party,
Yeah,
and that do you mentioned in our interview that um, local government members or local bureaucracy, including teachers and stuff, have to be SNS members. Do the police as
yeah,
well?
apparently so. I have no idea, but we know what happened recently, a few months ago. There was another unrest in front of SNS headquarters in Novi Sad, and one policeman hit an SNS member because the guy was just violent,
Okay.
or arrested him. I don't remember what exactly it was, but something happened with one policeman who attacked an SNS member who was being violent.
Yeah.
And the next day, there was the guy who was the director of police or whatever in Novi Sad. I don't know what his title exactly is, but the leader of the police in Novi Sad, he was removed from his position, and they brought in someone else who was going to listen to orders more carefully. I guess that's at least how we
Right.
interpreted it.
The pro SNS protesters are going out and painting. So let me just get this straight. So they were out painting the flags. They had police protection in doing this, and then they went to the SNS headquarters and barricaded themselves inside, threw rocks, fireworks out at counter protesters.
Yes, but this didn't happen in the same day. So one day they
Okay.
were painting flags, and then 2 days later they went into the headquarters. Yes. But yeah, they were painting these flags, and yeah, the weirdest part is that they were doing it in broad daylight. Citizens tried to react. There was somebody who got in a fight with one of them, and police arrested the guy who was attacked by them. And also, like all of the SNS top members and the president, they keep. This is like their old spiel. This is what they used to do before. So they paint the buildings in flags, and citizens protest because it's not really in good taste to do that. And okay, it's not that we hate the flag; it's just that that's not how you do things. And then they accuse people of being anti-Serbian and hating our country because they don't like the flag. And so
Right.
everyone who all of these higher SNS members, they were all tweeting and giving press releases saying like, oh, you can see these blockaders, these protesters, they are fascist, they hate our country, they want to bring our country down, and so on. That's like the picture they paint in their media. And unfortunately, there's like a total media blackout in Serbia. Most of citizens only hear that version of the story, so it's very effective.
What about social media in Serbia? Is it still mostly accessible?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we who fight for freedom and are on the streets, we get our news from mostly Instagram, I think, because students are kind of the organizers of all of this, but
Hmm.
Instagram. But lately, citizens also organize into groups, and a lot of communication is happening on, which is why it was chosen. Then, Twitter as well. And there is this one media and one television. They actually like broadcast everything on their television, literally everything. But they're putting a lot of effort into getting the television banned in the country. When I say they, I mean the SNS.
Yeah.
They do not have not all citizens have access to this television, especially in rural areas, mostly
Hmm.
in bigger towns.
You've described the pro SNS protesters as criminals and thugs. And
Yep.
how do you guys know that they are criminals and
They're
that sort of thing?
recognized. They're
Yeah.
identified, and I see their images are shared on Reddit and Twitter and Instagram, and people have identified them. And you can see, like, they have been actual, like, convicted criminals, convicted of drug trafficking or murders or attempted murders or stuff like that. Like, they're actually identified through social media. Uh, and there
Okay.
was another incident. There was an interesting one the other day in Pančevo near Belgrade. There was a guy on a jet ski who I'm really not sure what happened there. He started going wild, trying to run over some children who were there kayaking, and then their coach tried to intervene, and the guy on the jet ski tried to run over the guy on the kayak, the coach, and
Right.
I'll,
Okay.
and this happened again in broad daylight. There's videos of this. And apparently people tried calling the police a few times, but they didn't want to arrest him because he was affiliated with SNS.
Okay.
So yeah, that's also that's just how things are now, I guess.
And where do you think this is going to go from here?
I have no idea. I honestly, I didn't know we were gonna get here. I mean, you don't really imagine this kind of stuff happening on your streets. We all had speculation of could it become violent, but I don't know. I mean, protesters are still mostly trying to be peaceful as much as you can be peaceful, but once they start the SNS followers start being violent, you cannot. There's no other answer to that, like no other response to that than trying to protect yourself. And that sometimes entails counter violence, unfortunately. Um, I don't know where can it go from here. Students have been calling and citizens have been calling for elections for a while now. So we've been asking the president to have a to organize the elections, so parliamentary elections, so we can actually show that they are illegitimate, that people do not want them, and they have been stalling, which is weird because in the past 12 years of SNS rule, they have had these, what do you call them, like not landslide, but these unplanned
Yeah.
elections. Yeah, they have had these unplanned elections like a gazillion times whenever they want to show their might or something, whenever they want to spin something, whenever they want to, I don't know, hide something, I guess they organize elections just to show that they are in power, and they never postpone them. So we speculate that they know that they do not have they will not have enough votes to stay in power,
Hmm.
which is why they're delaying this, and they keep saying that we do not need elections. So I think it has to go their way. It has to somehow be channeled politically. I hope we will get these elections, although it's gonna be nasty. We had local elections in two very small towns in south of Serbia, and it was brutal. There was literally on election day, there were thugs marching in front of like voting stations, voting places where they were just standing there being threatening to citizens. Before the elections, there was like these very aggressive campaigns from SNS. They were literally paving roads because, in Serbian rural areas, we joke often that you only get paved roads when there are elections coming around because government wants to show that they're doing something. So here
Right. Yeah.
it was brought to an extreme, and they were literally just buying votes with anything, with paved roads. They were buying people like washing machines and I don't know, stuff like that. There were reports of televisions and microwaves and whatever these poor people in rural areas needed, they were getting just if they guaranteed their vote.
Right.
This probably won't be applicable on nationwide level because you just can't pave all the roads
No.
in Serbia
No.
like that. So we do not expect that kind of a campaign. They will probably focus on more, well, wherever they in all the areas where they see that they can get something uh, out of the citizens, but we don't know. We understand that it's very they're very well trained to steal elections. They've done it many times. They have a lot of methods of doing this, so we are worried that, but we are familiar with their techniques. Um, so, everyone is kind of preparing themselves for inevitable elections. Vučić has been teasing something. There have been signs. He's been promising some pension increases and stuff like that, which is always a sign of upcoming
Yeah.
elections. So that's where we hope it'll get. But another route it could take is if this escalates too far. Mm, I don't know. Maybe he'll bring in the military or something. I don't know. I don't know what he can do. I don't know how crazy he is. We didn't thought he was crazy enough to get us here, but here we are.
Tamara, thank you very much indeed for coming on such short notice, and thank you for your update from your perspective of what's happening on the ground. Please do stay safe, and I hope to speak to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you as well for spreading the word.